Hi there, I'm Dr. Yen, and I want to welcome you to Module 3. Students find that the content in this module tends to be the most difficult because you're picking up new skills and new terminology. Module 3 focuses on 3 things. First is how to understand information from citations. If you've done well understanding information from item records, then citations are going to be a snap. But if you've struggled with understanding information from item records, then we want you to pay close attention to what's covered in this video, because the more you're exposed to item records and citations, the easier the skill will be until it'll finally click. So be patient, ask questions, and reach out to your instructor if you're still stuck. You'll also pick up some new searching techniques and skills, such as citation chaining, which is going to save you tons of time finding relevant information for your topic, and nesting booleans, truncation, and field searching, all great for narrowing your search down to what you need. Finally, you'll also learn how to access information through the ISU Parks Library website. This video in particular is going to focus on item records and citations, but you'll find other videos on search techniques in your module pages. So let's do a quick overview on item records and how they relate to citations. Item records are generated by databases and search engines like Quick Search and Google. Citations are generated by scholars to help you find the information sources that they've used to make their arguments. Both records and citations will tell you what the item is about, and they contain similar information to help you find the item you're looking for. But that information is going to be presented in a different order. For instance, here's the item record in Quick Search on the book Mischief Unmanaged. In item records from databases, the title of the information source comes first. Here's the same book as a citation. It's exactly the same item. But in citations, the authors are listed first, followed by the book title. When you think of information sources, you want to think of them in terms of who wrote or created the item, when was it created, which means usually the year, but sometimes the full date, what's the title of the item, and what container the item is found in. The container is going to tell you what kind of format the item is in, whether it's in a book, a magazine article, a scholarly journal, etc. Here's what I mean by that. Imagine that information comes in containers, like storage jars. Only these jars are in the form of books, magazines, academic journals, conference proceedings, newspapers, websites, and blogs. That's the container on the outside, but the container holds delicious information on the inside. If your container is a book, it stores book chapters. For a magazine, it stores articles. Journals are just like magazines for scholars. So they contain articles that are peer-reviewed and written by scholars. If your container is a conference, inside the conference proceedings are sessions, and if the container is a newspaper, you have articles inside those. As a scholar, you need to identify an information's format so that you know where you need to go to find it in the library. How can you tell whether an information source is a book chapter, magazine, journal, etc.? Besides the container, there's going to be clues based on how that information was made. If you can understand how something is made, you're going to be able to identify what the source is. For example, let's talk about how scholarly books are made. Most people are used to books like you see here on the left, written by 1 or 2 authors. Everything in the book is written by the same authors. That's not the case, though, for all scholarly books. In this scholarly book here, Fandom Unbound, there are 3 editors, Ito, Okabe, and Tsuji. Editors are the people who read and proofread an author's book. These editors put the book together, but the book itself is probably written by multiple authors. Why? Because a scholarly book process is written a little differently. It starts with an editor who is usually a professor or subject matter expert, and this person says, hey, I want to capture the academic conversation around this certain topic. The editor may approach the topic from their perspective, so they end up writing a few chapters in the book, but what they really want to do is capture the entire academic conversation. They want the perspectives of all the experts on this topic. So what they do is they reach out to their colleagues. They put a call for papers out to the academic world, and the experts will write chapters about their research on the topic, and they'll send those chapters back to the editor or editors who edit the chapters, and the editors put the book together. Each chapter is written by different authors who submitted papers for the book. So when you see the book and look into the table of contents of a scholarly book, notice how each chapter lists the names of the authors who wrote it, and they're different from the editors. This is why we have book chapter citations. Usually, we don't read an entire scholarly book, just like we usually don't read an entire scholarly article. Like reading articles, we only go to the chapters or sections that are most relevant to our research. And that's why you'll see citations to the book chapter instead of the book. In a book chapter citation, you'll have the authors who wrote the chapter title, which always appears after the author's names, the name of the book, which is, as you remember, that container. For most citations, the book title is in italics, and the page numbers where the chapter is found. A giveaway that a citation is a book chapter is this word in, which you see right here. When the word in appears before the book title, you know it's a book chapter because the book chapter is in the book container. So when you compare the two, take a look at this book chapter, Making Fujoshi Identity Visible and Invisible, which is found in the book Fandom Unbound. Notice the citation for the book chapter is a little bigger than just the book citation, only has the name of the book in italics and the name of the editors, but not the author because there's multiple authors in this book. Look at newspapers, which are released daily and sometimes even several times a day. These articles are written by, as you saw in Module 1, reporters, editors, and writers. Because newspapers are released daily, you need to look for full dates in a newspaper article. The other thing that tells you it's a newspaper citation is that the name of the container, which is a newspaper, is usually listed in italics. If you see the name of a newspaper in full dates, it's a newspaper citation. Since this citation is on a newspaper article, the title of the news article comes before the title of the newspaper or container. So now let's talk about all articles found in magazines and journals. Magazines are written for popular audiences, and as you can see, they have eye-catching pictures, and when you remember back to Module 1, they rarely contain citations. They're meant to entertain as well as inform. Magazines are the container, and inside magazines are the articles and stories. Also notice that magazines are organized. Here you can see winter, spring, and summer volumes. Now, you've seen magazines which are written for popular audiences. What you may not be familiar with are journals, which are magazines that are written for scholarly audiences. Journals are organized just like magazines. You've got the outer container, which you see here, and you also have, as you can see on the right, a volume number. Journals are organized by volume and issue number, just similar to the spring, summer, and fall issues you saw in magazines. And like magazines, journals are a container for journal articles. The articles look slightly different. As you can see, there's a magazine article on the left and a journal article on the right. Slightly different because journal articles written by scholars are really about passing that information along. Organizationally, though, they're very, very similar. Let's look at a journal article citation, which will include the author name, journal name, and journal article name. In any citation, the names of the authors always comes first, like we mentioned. Next, you'll see the name of the article followed by the name of the journal. These numbers here represent the volume and issue number, and These numbers show the page number. In addition to journals and journal articles, scholarly information also comes in the form of conference proceedings. What's a conference proceeding? We talk about conferences being a container to hold information in the form of conference proceedings. Conferences are where academics gather to literally have those academic conversations around their different topics of interest. They also present sessions about their topics. Scholars go to conference sessions in order to stay updated on the latest and greatest research in their fields. Conference proceedings are the written records of these meetings. Like here, you can see that this conference proceeding is a record of the 15th International Scientific Conference on Aeronautics, Automotive, and Railway Engineering and Technology. This conference took place in Bulgaria from the 10th through the 13th of September 2023. Each of these sessions in the conference is contained inside the proceedings, and as you can see, they look very similar to journal articles. The citation also looks similar to a journal article except for one tiny detail. The words conference proceedings. When you see words like proceedings, conference, annual meeting, workshop, symposium, or annals, this will be a conference proceeding. It's definitely something I would put in your notes for your finals so that it will help you remember. Okay, so citations can be a little confusing at first, which is the reason why we created a flowchart to help you. Here's how you'll use the flowchart. Say you have this citation right here. The first thing the flowchart is going to have you look at is whether or not it contains the words annals, annual meeting, conference, proceedings, or symposium or workshop. In this citation, you'll notice it doesn't have any of these words. So nope, it's not a conference proceeding. We're going to go to the next piece on the flowchart. Does it have a full date? Notice that it doesn't have a full date. No. So now we're going to go to seeing whether or not it has a volume or issue number. Sometimes there's only a volume. Take a look here. That's the volume number. There's no issue on this one, but there's definitely a volume number. The other thing that kind of tells you that it's a journal article is that it actually says the International Journal of Role Playing. The container, right, is a journal. So it's a giveaway that this is a journal article. Try using this flowchart in the Try It problems on page 3.1. See if you can identify the 9 different citations on this page. So by now, you'll be able to tell whether or not a citation is a book chapter, a journal article, a conference proceeding, or a newspaper. Now, if you're still confused after you use the flowchart on the Try It questions, there's another sheet that you can download to practice, but I also highly suggest meeting with your instructor to kind of get things flowing in place. Sometimes it just takes a conversation with another person to kind of help make things click. So I hope you enjoy the module and that you find a lot of this information is useful to other projects and things in your other classes. If you have any questions, like I said before, make sure you reach out to your instructor, and I will see you again in Module 4. Happy studying, everyone.